Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast. Welcome to the Monday show. This is Endurance for Everyone, and I am John down here in Tampa, and up there in the Pennsylvania North Country is my good friend Rob. How you doing, Rob?
Very good, John.
I almost called you Bobby.
Back. Bobby Boucher.
I almost called you Bobby.
Bobby, the water boy.
You ain't even a man. Sorry, bringing out my Bobby Boucher. Did you know
there was a thing on Facebook years ago, and maybe I saw it recently too. And this is like the life cycle of a Rob, and it's like there's a little boy, and it's like Bobby, or then it goes like Robbie, and then it goes Rob, and it's like the guy's getting older, and then it's like then he has no hair, and then he calls it Bob, and then it points to a grave and it says RIP.
That's funny. That's funny. Did I ever tell you that movie, The Water Boy, that we were talking about, Bobby Boucher? Did I ever tell you this? That the field that they play on in that movie is my high school field?
You might have. I don't completely recall that though. I feel like I should have known that.
That field is Spec Martin Stadium in DeLand, Florida, and that's how they got because it was so cheap because it's DeLand. But that's how they got the money to renovate that stadium.
Nice.
But I mean, it's like a bowl. There's no locker rooms at this stadium. That's how backwoods this is. You know, we had to go to the grassy knoll along the outside of the bleachers for halftime and sit on the grassy knoll.
Let me throw three things at you to say, if your school's poor, mine is poorer and so forth. Yeah. So my high school football field was up on when I say the hill. Yeah. No locker rooms. There was this really old field house that must have been 30 years old. When I say condemned, you weren't allowed to go in. It was basically a big bee's nest. Literally, like you said, halftime you went and sat on the side. Yeah. But the school was so poor. Keep in mind, we didn't have a ton of sports. We had football and soccer. That was it. Men's soccer only, because the one girl who wanted to play soccer, she had to play on the men's team because there's just not enough to go around in that point. Okay, but junior high practiced on it. Junior high played on it. High school played on it. High school soccer played on it. Then the weekend came around. Was it like termite, mighty mite, midget, all of like the little kids leagues played on it like Saturday and Sunday, plus and then soccer as well. So by about a week into the season, from like the hash mark to the hash mark, like the 25 to the 25 was nothing but mud. Yeah. Literally, they were painting stripes on the dirt because they just couldn't keep grass growing there because just how badly abused the field was.
Spec Martin's the same way. Everybody played on that one field in DeLand. To get to any kind of really good stadium, you had to go to Daytona. And even Daytona Beach had one stadium that 4 high schools shared.
Jeez, Pete.
I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
But that's how it was back then. Now it's a lot different now, but Spec Martin is still where DeLand plays.
Yeah.
So,
You talk about movies, though. 2 of them. Silence of the Lambs. Mm-hmm. The basement scene was filmed in one of my – not mine, one of my high school teachers' houses. Nice. Okay. And it always comes up because when it comes up for sale, because passed around Facebook, because we all knew the house. Second is, and I have not seen it, the movie, the Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've seen it, when he's pulling up to the hotel, it says like motel with the burned out letters on the side.
Yeah.
That's like 3 miles from my dad's house.
Nice. And you know why that, and what you know why that is because one, it's cheap. They don't have to pay, they have to pay the town so much money to use their stuff, but it's a lot cheaper to go to these little towns. And plus it's realistic. Oh,
100%. Here's a rundown motel. Let's just film it.
Yeah. So here, here's a little DeLand, Florida. It's supposed to be Louisiana, because of the Bourbon Bowl, in that movie. But that was a way for DeLand to get money to kind of, build that stadium, make it a little bit nicer, at least, for the high schools, and get some new uniforms for the high school team and stuff like that. We had the same. We didn't have two different uniforms. We had our uniforms. We didn't have away and home. Our helmets had nothing on them.
Yep, same here.
And there were helmets you could probably buy at a Walmart.
John, back it up though. I should say it this way: our helmets were, and I don't know if this is the same deal. This is my, I don't know, 5th grade high school team, whatever that one would be. Okay, that's about when I started, and they gave you the helmet. They were freshly painted. Keep that in mind. We couldn't even afford new helmets. They got old ones and had them painted at the local auto body shop.
That's funny.
Okay.
And it hasn't affected us at all.
I know. Hey, John, did I tell you about those helmets that we had to get painted? I shouldn't joke.
I know. That was back when football was football, though. Come on. Yeah. It's just amazing that nobody got killed, honestly, the way we played.
Yeah.
But anyway. So what we're going to talk about tonight is kind of some we've talked about this before on the show.
Always do. Nothing new under the sun. We just keep repeating it.
Yeah, but I think this is a subject that's worth repeating, because I do think, and I'm guilty of this as anybody else, we get into this mindset that our calendar is set for the year, and we're going to do these races no matter what. And I think a couple of years ago, my brain started thinking a little bit differently on this, because I was just running myself into the ground. That it was okay. Like, you know what? I'm not trained enough for this race. I'm going to kill myself if I try this. I'm going to back out of this race and be okay with it, or change to something else. Things change as you go along, right? As you know.
I was saying yes several times, but I coughed and I hit the mute button. So
Okay.
I looked up and nothing's happening. But yes to everything you just said. Yes, John. Yes, John. Yes, John. Yes, John. There,
yes, John.
We'll just edit those in later.
Just about every 5 seconds, just say yes. To the microphone. Yep.
Interesting. Tell me more.
That being said, we have to throw that one in there every once in a while too. So I think we both are. Like I said, the last couple of years has been like this for me. The last year and this year, not so much, because I'm planned a little better. I'm not throwing like a normal summer for me. More than 2 years ago, was I was racing every other weekend.
Yeah.
And something, usually triathlons. I was at Claremont, or I was at, Dunedin or someplace. I was racing all the time. Now I have nothing on my schedule this summer past June 30th.
Yeah.
So I have at the end of this, not this month, but end of next month, Moon Croom. It's a 14-mile trail run at night. That's all I have. I don't have anything for July, August, or September.
Right.
Actually, I don't have anything on my schedule now until December. Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm looking at something for October, possibly. So, that's something else.
Something else.
No, a new one. Yeah. Well, it's John Holmes ultra marathon down here. We've been looking at that because I have to give it a shot. The longer I get, the longer the time span goes between my infinitus failure attempt and where I'm at now, the more I'm like chomping at. I gotta do that again. I gotta do that. I gotta finish it, or at least gotta give it another shot.
Can I digress and ask a question, and then I just where I'm at? You seen How I Met Your Mother?
What? Say it again.
Have you seen How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, yes.
So I don't know why, but occasionally those stupid things come up where it's the top 5 or this or that or whatever, right? Somebody made a comment and they said how they hated, that was like one of the most hated season finales because the whole, spoiler if you haven't watched it, the whole last 2 seasons is building to Barney and Robin's wedding, and then they show you posts, and then they show them getting divorced, right. But Barney has a line where he says, "This is not a failed marriage. This is a successful marriage that just happened to only last 3 years." Well, and that's something where you need to, when I say if you're reframing it, it's not a failure of a race because you knew you weren't doing 888K. You were going to do as much as you could, and you did that.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
So wasn't as much of a digression, but there it is.
I like that. I like that. So, but I think you haven't really had that issue until recently.
Dun,
right?
dun, dun.
There's the spoiler, right?
Yeah. So John, you've talked for a few minutes. I've talked for a minute there, and I feel like I'm gonna be talking a lot, and no surprise, and I'll just summarize it by saying, I really feel like it's a big identity crisis, partially because I don't know if it's 3 questions that sound, or 3 statements that sound almost the same. I don't know if it's who I am or if it's who I think I should be. And I really just, when it comes down to it and you say, what do you want? I don't know. And it's hard to say that. It's hard to admit that, so to say, because with a part of it is, I'm not saying I've had this triathlete identity. I've had this dual, marathoner, triathlete. I like to just do this because I like to make sure I'm always having fun. So I'll try to keep it to a minute or two digression, and hopefully people get this because it's the best way that I could say it. I like triathlon. I really want to be a good cyclist. That's why I went and did that bike ride. And I love getting out on my bike. But everything I do is in an effort to get skinnier to bike. And I love triathlon because I'm not good at maybe I guess I am a decent swimmer, but I'm not a collegiate swimmer. I wasn't. I'm not super speedy. I'm not a 18-minute 5K person. I'm not a super cyclist who's going to lay down a 22-mile-per-hour average. I'm better than average on on all 3 of those. And when I string them together, I can get to the front. So if we're doing something, I like to know that I feel like I have a shot at doing something decent, something worthwhile. But then again, it's defining that what is decent, what is worthwhile. Last year, I said, I'm going to go to nationals. And earlier this year, I said, maybe I need to back off of that because, if I'm looking at it, I was making that proclamation before I had a spring marathon and a fall marathon. But it's so hard to sit back and I don't want to sound negative when I say it this way because I know some people are going to say I'd kill to have his marathon time, but I'd kill to have Brian and Ryan's marathon time, you know what I mean, and Garmin's, and so I don't know if it sounds weird to say for the next 4 months, like the first 4 months of this year, you changed me as a runner in your coaching profile. Right. It's weird for me to identify as a runner. And it's really hard to say, yeah, I'm a runner. I'm training for running. It's just so out of my element because I don't want to train so hard to suck. I don't want to go out there and drop a 5-hour marathon because something went wrong. And this was the big race and the big blank, 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 blank. Fill it all in. Okay. Mm-hmm. But, I know I'm not going to go out there and drop a 3:30. I know I'm not going to go out there and do sub 3 in Boston qualify. I'm in no danger of winning the thing. So it feels so weird to really sit back and say that marathon should be and is my A goal. But if I don't make it my A goal, I'm not if I do my 6 days a week of run training, I'm going to have one result. If I do 3 days a week of run training with a couple days of biking, it could work out. but it's so hard to give up on the try scene, even maybe just not even saying I'm giving up forever, but let's say I'm thinking of taking a step away. To that point, when I say I think, I overthink, I'm going to talk for another like 3 to 5 minutes of just I had said way earlier, we're going to talk about what's on the horizon. None of this is completely in plan, but in it paid for and booked and ready. But I was looking at, okay, I'm going to go do the damn try. And then, you know what, we're going to Cape Cod, so I can go up and do the Massachusetts State Triathlon. Then I could hop over to Boston for a few days. The wife and I can hang out there. I'm going to hit some November project, workouts Monday and Wednesday, because that's going to be cool. We're going to go to Cape Cod. I'm going to do a few more. There's a third triathlon that if it works out, I might go to. Hopefully I qualify. Then I go to Nationals. I'll do 2 days at Nationals. That's in August. Then there's a couple up on my brother-in-law in September, and I can slide out there. Like you said, I'm looking at like race to race to race to race to race. And really, it's funny. Like I sit down and I put it on a calendar, and when I look at it, it's like I just completed this bike ride and just filling it in from when this all starts forming. I'm looking at it as, okay, I have that bike ride, and then I come from the bike ride and I have about a week and a half before I go to Canada. So it's like, do I bike like 3 times and swim twice, and then I do 4 runs, then I'm gone for 5 days, then I come back and work out 2 days, and then I taper. That's really not a good training cycle for the damn try.
Trying to plan it.
Right. Well, I know. And that's why but I'm already signed up for the damn try. Yeah. But once again, I'm going to talk to the wife, but I already have like permissions on some of this. But that's where I don't know. I think I will probably still do the damn try. But that's where, like, when you say it this way, I'm looking at like, hey, I can sign up for this race in Massachusetts. It's only $100. It's an Olympic, but that's 2 weekends. When you really look at it, that's 2 weekends after the damn try. What is miraculously going to change in 2 weeks? I'm going to have like 2 days of recovery, using air quotes, 3 days of training, and then I'm back into taper if I want to perform optimally. Then if we run over to Boston, it's going to be a hefty toll to get a room and go. We might still do it, but it might be more like, this is where I really, when I say it's hard to identify as a runner, like if I scrapped all my triathlon and all my thoughts of triathlon, okay, I'm supposed to start run training soon for Chicago. If I solely focus on run training, and then if I happen to be able to go do a bike, that could be good. And if I have some free time, I can hit the pool for a rest day or recovery cross training. That could be good, and that would put a lot more fun into it, because like I'm looking at, okay, John wants me to do a bike ride. Do I go get on my bike? Do I go spin on the trainer? Or can I put the little guy in his basket and we can go do a 10-mile ride? Well, 10 miles with an extra 40 pounds on your bike, by the time you have kid and seat and everything, it's a workout, but it's not a 25-mile hill workout that John told me to do. And it's so hard to really just think of just letting go. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than I've identified with it for so long. I have it in me. This is what I'm thinking I need to do. This is what I'm thinking, what I've done for a decade. It's so hard to think of just letting it go, going for a run, filling these in as if I'm using air quotes, if we're going to be in the area, if we're going to go visit my brother-in-law, maybe I'll sign up for the triathlon, take my bike and go have fun. Maybe I'll just go watch it. I don't know. It's so hard to really separate from that. But ultimately, deep down, when I say I kind of know or think it's the right thing to do for now, because it will alleviate so much work-life balance stress to figure out, and it'll give me more time with the family, over the next couple summer months. And lastly, I don't want to say, knock on wood, I have not been injured in 10 years, but 7 days of training across the next 6 weeks in order to jump in and do an Olympic, I just don't know if it's the smartest move.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with you.
I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. Talk to me, Coach. Yeah. Tell me the way, Sensei.
Yeah, you're describing. There's a lot to unpack there. The first thing is like it's a challenge as a coach to try to set up a training plan for that. I kind of felt that something was going on the last couple of weeks, just because of what I was seeing. Now you're going through something. I'm trying to get my thoughts together here straight on this, but you're going through something that I kind of went through a couple of years ago about how do you identify. Now, people that have been around me and you and the group for a long time know that I have a blog called Fat Slow Triathlete, and I identified as a triathlete for a long, long time.
Yes.
But eventually I started getting burned out on that. And that's when I started having to think, well, maybe let me try duathlons for a while. And so I did that for a year and actually did okay with that. But through the injury, then I found trail running and ultra running, and said, well, I kind of fit into this too, and you start.
More on that later.
But even with that, it's I think we get you're kind of saying we get caught up in what do we consider, what do we identify as? Are we triathletes? Are we runners? Are we cyclists? Are we trail runners, ultra runners, swimmers even? I think what it comes down to is that we have to kind of what the name of the show is, right? We're endurance athletes. We do it all.
Yeah.
And there might be a year that we don't do a triathlon at all, and all we do is run all year, or even cycle, like Jennifer out there doing her Grand Fondos, right? That's all she's been doing now. She used to be right there with me with the triathlons for a long time, for 6 years, and now all she's doing is cycling now because she's found her niche. She likes it, so that's what she does, and I think it evolves, as we go along. I think, like I just said, I think what's happening here with you maybe is that you have so many different types of races now. It's causing. I don't have that much time to prepare for this race like I want to prepare for this race, and I think some of it may be like not letting go of triathlon, but letting go of maybe qualifying every time you go out to do a triathlon. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's like, because the whole thing with doing the damn try was qualify for nationals. Yeah. Well, maybe if you just go out and do the damn try and don't worry about nationals, just go do it. Just go have fun with it. You're not, so what if you don't? So you don't need, you're a good enough athlete that you don't need a lot of training to go do a sprint triathlon or an Olympic triathlon.
Right.
That's, as my first coach always said, you should always be trained enough to do a sprint. You should always be trained enough to do a half marathon if you're keeping up with any kind of training,
Yeah.
So I think part of letting go is maybe not letting go of the identity of a triathlete, but letting go of the identity of a podium finisher.
I'm going to interject one thing that isn't against everything I said, against what you're saying, and then I'm going to go back to agreeing with you on it, okay? My brother-in-law's brother-in-law is going to be there. And the goal for that race, and this is exactly how it comes down to it. I don't think there's enough people in the age group that they're going to take top two. They're only taking the top one.
Yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah.
I'm in his age group this year.
Gotcha.
First time for a couple. I already laid down the guy code. Here's what's happening, okay? And I told him I'm going to swim as hard as I know. I've done 2 swims this year. It's rare. So, but anyways, I'm going to go as hard as I can on the swim, and I'm going to go as hard as I can on the bike. If I come off the bike ahead of him, because that's where he can sometimes he's caught me in that last couple miles, and sometimes I can just stay ahead of him. If he's a faster runner than me, hands down. He passes me on the bike. I already know it's shift into not necessarily like 6 mile per hour effort mentality, but it's going to shift into relax mode and just have fun with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if he's behind me, it is race mode until I can't go any farther.
Right. Well, right. Okay. So you have a little bit of gamesmanship going on there too.
That's it. Yes. That's it.
And I've done, and we've all done this too. I'm sure I've done races that I wasn't really ready for, but I've done it because I knew somebody was going to be there and I needed to
prove something.
Prove something or just show them I was going to be there.
Yes.
So even though I knew I was going to suck, well, I can almost tell you that Infinitus was almost like that to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I couldn't do that. You know, I was injured. I knew I could not do that. But you know what? You know, I had just met Nancy at that point. So, you know, she was saying, you got to go do it. You got to try, you know?
Yeah.
And Megan's like, just come up there, you know, just as we said in the last show, you know, sometimes just putting on the shoes and getting them on the ground is what you need. Who knows what happens after that? Maybe some miracle happens and your foot's fine, you know? So, you know, sometimes we get caught up in that gamesmanship, you know, probably you more than me because you're faster and you're more competitive than I am. But
only against the people that I know.
Right. You know, so I can see that kind of playing into it, but
that's it, you know, and I even told him, I said, I'm going to go until I throw up across the finish line. You pass me.
Right.
You know, there's, you know, it is what it is. You pass me, you know, on the bike, there's just too much to keep up with at that point. You know what I mean?
And that's part of your makeup. We've talked about this in previous shows, and you know, going back to the very beginning, is that's a killer instinct. That's a mindset that I don't know if I have that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had that.
Yeah.
You know, in my whole life, that I like would push myself to the point that, you know, at some point, if I don't think I could do it, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
You know, okay. Yeah. I know I've given, as long as I've given everything I had.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not going to push myself till I'm puking, and I have back in the high school days, I've done it, but you know, I'm at that point in my life that, you know, I'm going to give my 100%. And if that's not good enough, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'll try, you know, I'll give it a shot. I think a big deal with mine, even going forward, was I would, you know, at the beginning of the year when you're rested, you know, and it's December, January, the seasons are all over, and you're kind of rested and you're feeling good, and you're starting to plan your calendar out and you start paying for these races. And, you know, a man of not a lot of funds, I was looking at it like this. I can't waste $100.
Yeah.
I paid $100 for that race. I can't just let that die. But the thing is that if I've paid $100 for a race 8 months in the future, that money's gone anyway.
It's sunk cost. That's
it's
the business term. Yep.
It's a sunk cost. So it's like, it doesn't matter 8 months from now if I,
see,
you know.
The only thing I've registered for, paid for at this point, is the damn try, not even the housing yet. And that's why, like I said, I'm still really sure I'm going to do it. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm backing out at that one at this point, but that's also close enough to get out to it, do it. You know what I mean? If I stay, it's only going to be less than $50 for a hotel, right? But that's where, like, when I start, that's the whole big kind of mindset mentality too, is then like Boston could be a cool trip. The race is only, I'm using air quotes, $100. Then it's $100 for a hotel before the night before the race. Then you go to Boston, and you're looking. I'm not saying I'd ever spend it on this, but the hotel rooms or these vacation rental by owners or whatever, these almost like an Airbnb. I'm looking at all options. It's between like $750 and $1,450 for 3 nights there. Yeah, that's 2 months mortgage in my area. Like that starts really getting towards like, I don't think I want to do that. Yeah, I don't care that much. Yeah. Well, it was always my saying about Ironman races, the full Ironmans, is that I don't know if I care enough to spend $700 on a race. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I kind of want to do it, but I don't know if I want to spend it. I'd like to prove something, but if I don't got that much to prove. Right. If I'm going to do a 140.6, I'm going to be ready for it. And I ain't paying for it until I know I'm ready for it. Right. I'm not going to pay for it. And you remember, Ironman Year 1, the first podcast. I mean, that's what the whole podcast is about. And it's like, I paid that money. It's like, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. Mm-hmm. So I lost money on that. And, but like you said, it's a sunk cost. I paid a year in advance. Yeah. But that's, like I said, I can't afford to lose $500. Mm-mm. So I'm a little bit more picky now. Like am I going to want to do now? I signed up for Millinocket in December. That's a free race. Yeah. I haven't even paid for, we haven't even paid for flights yet, so it's kind of like, if I miss that race, no big deal. And now we're talking, I don't want to use too many terms that aren't even correctly associated, but economies of scale or value that you're going to get for it,
Right.
And that's the whole second part of this. Like when I say how to identify, I want to do well in Chicago. I don't necessarily want to drop $1,000 to go
Right.
half-ass a Olympic triathlon and risk injury.
Right.
Okay. Now, granted, there's another part of a whole vacation associated with it, but that's not needed, right? Maybe we'll still go. Maybe we will. I don't know. That being said, I don't want the race to be the reason that we're doing it. If we do it and I happen to go into it, that's now a different mindset, right? Mm-hmm. But the same deal too. And when I fast forward out 6-8 months from now, well, not even that far, the thought is economies of scale with the training. If I'm training to do a marathon in October, what else could I piggyback off of that training to get the most out of that training cycle? Mm-hmm. And, that's where I started looking at, and that's why I say on the horizon. I don't – if I'm not doing so great at a marathon distance, well, hey, it sounds really weird to say, I'm not really going to get faster. So why don't I go longer? It's very counterintuitive, but that's a lot of people say that and then say they enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So I've looked at 2 or 3 things, and I don't know if we'll mention. I don't need necessarily to mention the names of it here, nor who I was talking to about it. But I'm looking at, like you talk about ultras. I'm looking at very, very oddly toying with the idea of first ultra maybe in November. Because if I'm already trained for an October, I can then have a few weeks of then back-to-back, maybe hit it, just a couple to see. And now listen, when I say ultra, I'm not talking 100-miler, okay? 50K, a 30-mile.
Right.
I'm using air quotes only. I'm using big air quotes, big bunny ears there, okay? Only, a few miles longer than the marathon. But once again, I'm not – also, when I say it this way, I don't want to phone it in. I'm not downplaying what anybody wants to do. If you want to go do a 50K ultra on the CNO towpath, what I'm looking at riding my bike on, they have it where there's 600 feet of elevation gain across 200 miles, okay? The one I'm looking at has, 5,600 feet of across 30 miles? Mm-hmm. I'm not looking at an easy one.
Right.
I'm not looking at the hardest one, but it makes me think like if speed isn't my game, maybe that run, walk, and I like hike and I like being outside. Maybe that's something I really should be looking at. And like I said, I don't want to dabble in my first one at something. I want to go big. I don't want to just like try something and be like, oh, look how tough I am, and then go try something else like like you went straight to the 888. You know what I mean? It wasn't, that's a big leap for one of your first ones to go do. And that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm thinking. So that might, once again, that could be. If I did that in November, then I start thinking, well, maybe I string that into Millinocket as well. Yeah. Now that puts a lot of quote stress and time thinking of it on the end of the year, but like I said, is that something that maybe would my wife be interested in? I need to have, these are some of the conversations that I need to have with her, but yet again, that's why the one ultra that I'm looking at, it's within a 2.5 hour drive to where I'm at. I would get a hotel room, but I don't need a week's worth of hotel room. I don't need to take a week off of work. It's leave, the race is on a Sunday, it's leave on a Saturday, you're back, you know what I mean? Maybe I take off Monday, maybe you miss a day of work, and I don't even have to do that. It puts a whole different realm of possibilities on the thing.
Right. And you touched on a big factor too. You're not in the same spot this year as you were in years past. You've got a kid now. Mm-hmm. You've got, when it's just you and your wife, it's still, you still have a wife to think about, but it's a little bit easier to plan that. But now you have a child.
Yeah.
And so that throws another whole thing into it, and a small child, not like when I started, my son was 14. He was grown.
Yeah.
That's different. He didn't want me around anyway at that point.
Right.
So it was no big deal. But, not only are you spending time away from your son and your wife, you're spending money that could be used. Right.
Yeah.
So your whole way of thinking has to change. Instead of, like you said, traveling 10 hours to go to a race, you maybe had that little 2-hour circle around your house, that any race between there. Something I was doing, I was spending way too much money and time on going to destination races. So if you notice the last 2 years, all my races have been in Florida, except for Infinitus and Runner's World, but those were planned vacation things,
Right.
And I think your whole way of thinking has to change in that. But then the other thing is that when you start talking about ultras, and it's like Chicago's your A race, and there's a reason why you call races A races, B races, C races. The A race is your target race. So all your training, even if you have races in between there, should be still focused on that A race. And
that's so hard, because I don't know if maybe I had said it, but maybe I completely didn't even identify that Chicago was my A race. It was, I want to do the training plan and I want to do well, but in my head, it's October. It's so far away.
It's so far away, right?
It really never even clicked that there was only a 4-week break from
right.
Pittsburgh into the start of the training plan.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what was challenging for me, to try to figure out how do I train? How do I set a training plan to do the triathlon at the same time that Chicago's hitting?
Right.
So yeah, it's challenging, but I have that challenge when I'm setting my own training plans, when I'm trying to figure this stuff out.
Right.
When I was doing St. Anthony's training, and I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what about the moon over Croom thing coming up? And what I had to start doing was really forget about training for the runs and just train for the triathlon, because that was the A race.
Right.
So the A race after moon over Croom, my A race is Millinocket. So anything I put in between there, but that's what I was going to say also, that if you want to do an ultra marathon, Chicago fits into that.
Yeah.
So you can train for Chicago and you're still really training for an ultra as well. You're training for 20. Yeah, it's different. It's a trail run versus, a road Chicago run, but it's still time on your feet. It's still, it's still training. It's running, and it fits in, I guess. And then you talk about if you're doing a Hansen method again, well, you got 6 days a week you're running.
Yeah,
when are you going to do anything else? When you doing anything else?
Right.
There is no anything else. So even if you're going to throw, and if you're doing Hansen the way it should be, which you did, are you really going to want to go bike after that?
No, and that's where, when I say I thought I was compromising well with so I will bike on a easy run day, but then I'm half-assing two things, because if to truly go for the easy run, I'm supposed to be in zone 2 and resting and relaxing my legs, but right. I'm not going to want to hit the rail trail every single day. I'm going to want to go get on the bike and do some hills. So I'm going to be going harder on the bike, harder on my legs, which is going to be more fun, it's going to be all that stuff. But then it's, I'm going to be sacrificing the speed work or the tempo,
Right. Yeah. You can't, right. There's, what's nothing with impunity. You can't take something from one thing without filling it with another, things like that, so, something's going to either, they're both going to fall off is what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to do the right thing for either one of them.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit about it, but, my suggestion would be to focus on Chicago, but I know you're going to do damn try. But I was even when we were talking about your training plan today, I was saying, I really don't know how to do this, because I don't know what you're able to do right now, and with the couple of weeks off you got coming up, I don't know I was struggling with it on what to do, so,
right.
But I think it's a healthy thing to talk about,
right.
Because sometimes it's we call come to Jesus moments,
Yeah.
That, sometimes you just got to look at it and say, but that's really when a coach does come into play, is that, okay, I'm the one that has to say, look, either you focus on Chicago and really, really focus on doing Chicago well, or we're going to pull back and kind of like focus on them all and not do any of them to the best of your ability, but be able to finish them all.
Right.
And it depends on what you want. I think you want to do Chicago well, right?
Yeah.
That's your goal. Yeah.
Especially since I guess it all comes down to, it was a goal, like 4 of them in a row for Pittsburgh there.
Right.
When you're looking at, I said, I wanted to go sub 4. I wanted to go this. I wanted to do that. And when I say I missed them all, but that's when I said, hey, ultimately, if the plan worked well and I felt good, I was recovered in like 3 days. Ready. I don't want to say ready to go do another one, but I was, which leads into the, once again, I feel that I could do better in Chicago, or at least have a very good showing, because I can train hot, run cool, blah, 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 all the stuff that I've already said, which leads into a really good simulation and training for Chicago. 1, 2, if I know I can recover that quickly, even if I don't do the ultra and if I don't do Millinocket, it's this can happen with, and I don't want to say no consequences, but no adverse, we need to plan this, plan A plus B to get C, -2, square root of 7, we don't got to figure all that into it. It's literally, we can take this, then we add a few days recovery, which are in the Hansen method, recovery running. So maybe I take a day or 2 off, then I get right back into some light running, and then some long, and the difference once again between 26.2 and 30, 31, not that far by all means in comparison, especially whenever I'm not going to go out there, because the idea behind that would not be gunning it for the, it's not going to be a PR. I'm not, if I do Chicago in 4 hours, this race isn't going to be a 5 hour. There's a 10-hour cutoff or whatever it is for a reason. It's hard. You know what I mean? It would be a go to do it, to try the hiking, walking, run, walk, et cetera, et cetera. It'd be for the new experience to try it. And the same thing, then a month later going and doing Millinocket, it would once again not be I'm trying to Boston qualify, but it would be a flatter, could be cold, could be hot, who knows what's going to happen. But literally then, it sounds weird to say it, it'd be like knocking 3 states off the marathon list. It'd be out knocking Chicago, which knocks off Illinois. The ultra will count, for a marathon in West Virginia. Millinocket knocks off Maine. That's a pretty good return on investment for one training cycle.
Now that ultra is actually in Delaware, isn't it?
It's west of Berkeley Springs, be West Virginia.
Okay. I looked at the map, but we're not saying which one it is, but it's like, I get confused.
Yep.
All I saw was mountains, and when I saw the 10-hour, remember I saw there's a 10-hour cutoff, and actually there's a 5-hour cutoff because they'll stop you if you hit that, because it's an out and back, I guess.
Right.
So if you don't hit that 5-hour mark, but it's an 18:18 pace.
Right.
So my first thought is, well, that's not, I can do 18:18, and then my second thought, wait a second.
If they're giving you that
in 10 hours
for a reason.
Okay, yeah, there's a reason there, and sure enough, 5,300 feet of climbing. That's the reason.
Yeah,
which I wouldn't be able to do right now. I mean, and I've talked about this before. Where would I train for that?
A lot of parking garages, man.
A lot of parking garages, a lot of treadmills set at 10%. Things like that. But does that even really train you? I mean, No, it doesn't, because running up a parking garage, you'll get some climbing. You'll get some climbing in for sure, but I think I read in the description of this one is that there are a couple of tree holding moments.
Yep.
Okay, that reminds me of Barkley.
Yeah.
When I saw Barkley.
And in all honesty and full disclosure, I'm mentioning no names. That's what happens whenever you go down the deep, dark pit of despair and you start thinking the worst and hardest things possible. Mm-hmm. I started talking to some people trying to figure out if it's possible and how you get into the Barkley, to the point where I was referred that Lazar is currently walking across the United States or across Route 20. I debated going up to try to track him down because he's coming across the northern part, Erie, Pennsylvania, New York through Erie, and basically, trying to go up, meet him, track him down, talk my way into it. And I realized that is just as irresponsible as, as the alternative of racing, triathlons untrained as well. So
but the Barkley kind of holds that mystique that Badwater and Boston and and other races hold.
Yep.
It's like not even everybody knows what Barkley is, and then but the people that know what it is, that's kind of like. Oh. But you know what? I'd be number one. I'd have that.
I'd be the sacrificial.
I'd be the sacrificial lamb. But because Barkley, just not to get off on Barkley, but that's as much about orienteering as it is about running.
Yes,
you have to know how to track.
Yes,
and that scares me more than the running does.
Mm-hmm. Because
being out in a place where I don't know, in the woods that I don't know at night, scares me.
Isn't that? That just sounds fun, John.
I'll be like, well, it sounds fun, but if I was with people, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I know I'm so damn slow, I'd be by myself.
Yeah.
And that scares me, because I'll be the one that they find years later.
Where's John? Oh, well.
Buried underneath the log by the mountain lion, something.
Let's see, what was he doing over there?
Yeah.
The book was over here.
Well, he did an ultra because that's like 200 miles off course. But anyway, so yeah, I think people said this to me. Megan said it to me. What the answer is.
Right.
So it's just a matter of coming to grips with the answer.
I'm gonna have to live with it. Yeah.
Yeah, coming to grips with it, making the decision, and taking everything into account. Like I said, you have other issues besides running. I mean, you can do the races, Rob. You're able to do these races, but to want to do it as the best you can and still keep some semblance of peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
You have other issues to deal with right now. So
yeah.
And that's important. And trust me, it's coming from somebody who has been there, as I said in my text today, I'm a coach, but as a friend as well, you want to keep that peace, man.
Yeah.
Because that can stress you out more than any damn marathon.
I agree.
And you won't and you won't train as well. And you won't run as because you're out there training and you won't do the training you want because you're trying to get back.
Right.
You're trying not to take time away, so you have to be doing something that's comfortable for everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But, and that's a big deal. That's a big part of it. And, and coming from somebody who wasn't the best at it.
Yeah.
I sucked at that.
Well, I'm going to show you my work, family, life balance and say my ride is waiting. So
there you go. So we are done with, we're not calling this an episode because we really don't know which one it is.
Well, we know it's an episode. We don't know which episode.
We know it's an episode, and we know it will post June 4th, next Monday, but it's a Monday show. That's what we're going to start calling it.
Yes, sir.
Show. All right, man. So you take care. Take care of the family. We'll talk more about the training offline, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Throw a couple sprints in, and you guys all have some fun.
All right. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.